I get up, I am woman. I ain't got no time to waste now. Won't keep walking with my head down. No, oh, oh, oh. Get up, I am woman. It's a woman's world, and I live my life on purpose. Oh, 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 oh. Woman to woman, this is what we're about to do now. Shaping the future. This is our world. Sophisticated.
Hello and welcome. It's a woman's world, of course, and I'm Stacy-Ann. Ty and Karine are here too. Where else would they be?
I don't understand you.
I know, I'm not sure how to take that.
We have a thing. We have a meeting here at this time to.
Was it appreciation you were trying to show?
Of course.
I felt a little insulted.
She was very rude.
I was not.
Reading a book, we could be at the beach, we could be planning our next vacation.
All right. It's okay.
Ladies,
All right,
I know you have full lives because
you.
it is a woman's world and you can do it all. I just
Thank you
was
very
saying that it's nice and that we set this time to talk. Only go on, so.
No, you're right.
love
And
you
have,
too.
we have a whole heap of things to talk about. Lots of, in fact, some serious issues
Yeah.
we're dealing with today. Some things that really are affecting women, and I think we'll be able to provide some insight and really get into it.
Yeah.
Really get into it.
Definitely. So we'll do that right after we come back from this break. Understand the one that you love loves you in so many ways.
If this doesn't work out, got a girl group.
I'm bold and beautiful. This is a woman's world.
It felt like everybody was paying attention when the CEO of Amazon announced in January that he was divorcing his wife. They were married for 25 years, had 4 children, and going to split, listen carefully, $137 billion. That's billion with a B. Can I be the ex-Mrs. Jeff Bezos for a second?
No.
No, but seriously, divorce is not a joke. And anyone who's been married will tell you it's the last thing they expect or want to happen. But unfortunately, things don't always go the way we like it. Our 2 guests in the segment of the show today know exactly what I'm talking about. Stacey Hines, Danielle Terrelong. Welcome to It's a Woman's World.
Great, thank you for having me.
Ladies, I know that a myriad of issues can lead to a divorce, but can you guys share with us can you pinpoint maybe one of the major things that caused each of your divorces? Stacey, I'll start with you.
I think the main thing, having now gone through the process and have had some time to look back, is that we really grew apart. I think when you get married young, and especially when you're marrying someone that you've known since you were a little girl, sometimes you get caught up in the day-to-day and you become almost like roommates, and you lose sight of the bigger picture and the bigger dreams that each person has. And I don't think we really had a collective vision for the direction of our lives.
One of the things that was important for me was that our marriage would be an example and have impact to other people. And I don't think that we both, shared that goal anymore. And one of the things I can say is that, because it was said, is that my husband just no longer wanted to be married to me in that moment for a myriad of reasons that, he spoke to at the time. So it became, I think, less of my choice in that season of our marriage.
But as Stacey said, it made me think. I mean, this is somebody you knew since you were, 9 years old or 10 years old?
Yeah.
I mean,
met him when I
how
was a little
do you
girl.
then transition? What was that transition period like, knowing somebody nearly all your life and
Yeah.
then having to develop this new normal?
I'm not sure if I would call it a new normal. It's new, but I would say that it was an exceptional opportunity for me to learn and grow about myself. There was never a time where I realized, you've never really been on your own. You've always had somebody with you, you've always had a person, whether he was right there or not, because we did go to university in different states. So whether he was right beside me at the moment or not, I always had him in my mind, always had the context of him being my partner. And so I never imagined myself by myself, especially not by myself with 3 children. So there was definitely no normal for a long time. I think I'm just now, maybe in the last couple of years, settling into something that I would consider a new normal.
Do you think that that had anything to do with the relationship kind of going south? Do you think that just always having that person in your life and then not a lot of other experiences, do you think that contributed in any way?
Yeah, maybe somewhat. I mean, I think for me, I had an idealistic view of marriage. You know, I think all of us growing up, we have the Cinderella dream and the big wedding and the dress and the thing. And
I didn't.
okay, well, a lot of us have that view, right? And I think when you actually got into the work of marriage, a lot of the questions around, you know, kind of started to occur to me. Well, isn't it supposed to be like this and isn't it supposed to be like that? And then when you don't really have anything to compare it to your point, you kind of have those questions. However, I don't know that I dwelt there because you're already married. So you kind of know just shifting on, well, how can I make this the best marriage, right? So,
But what was it like though before you got to that point? I mean, this is somebody in both your cases that you would have loved and felt that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
The relationship that I had with my boyfriend, fiance, was fantastic. We had a beautiful relationship. We were both seeking God in a very real way in our relationship at the time. So it was very powerful for us and powerful for us to get married. I remember just wanting our wedding to not concentrating so much on the pretty dress, even though it was gorgeous, if I do say so myself. It was really about how could our wedding even impact people, impact our friends, because I wanted to see that. I wanted our marriage to just manifest in different ways for people. There was a lot of joy, and I still to this day I will tell you that I think my ex-husband is one of the best males I've ever come across in my life. He's a wonderful human being. I have a lot of respect for him as a person. It just didn't happen to work out with both of us at the time.
How do you get to that point though? Because you clearly are speaking very highly of him. Earlier you had mentioned that it had come to the point where he didn't want to be married to you, which must have hurt. So how do you move from that feeling, from that position of being very hurt to where you are now, where you can speak well of him?
Well, for me, one of the things that happened is I had to get to a place of, but for the grace of God, go I. The mistakes that were made, I guess you could say, towards me, I could have made those very same mistakes as well. And I just feel like there's a level of accountability. Two people get married. It is two people who separate from each other. I refuse to be the woman who, and there's no judgment in this, but I didn't want to be the scorned wife. You know, hell hath no fury like a scorned woman. No. I just
want key to car.
No, that was unnecessary. I was angry. Yeah, that's unnecessary. I mean, for me, it was unnecessary. I said no judgment, but I didn't want to be that, because what I realized is that in healing from my marriage, I had to be able to. It was really for me. I had to be able to move on. I had a 16-year-old daughter at the time. And I needed to be able to show her that as a woman, we'll go through some really rough stuff. But how do you keep, I have a business to run, I have employees to still be a leader, to have clients to service. Who was I going to be? How was I going to show up in a challenging situation?
So you had this relationship since you basically knew yourself. And then transitioning to somebody who's no longer married and you don't have that.
Well, it's less of an impact now. Like I don't really get triggered as much anymore. I mean, initially it was very challenging, especially since when you're divorced, it's not just the individual that you are untangling yourself from. There are entire families that are involved, and separating from a mother that is now your mother and grandmother. It's just there's a whole myriad of things. So initially the emotional sting. Just from conversations, I mean, I didn't want to hear any questions. You don't want to have to show up at a party where the whole family would normally be, and now,
that would definitely have been
a lot of uncomfortable situations and stuff. As you get more settled into yourself, and I think I did a lot of self-work that helped me to get to here. It's gotten a lot. It's gotten a lot easier.
I'm going to give Danielle the final word. So as Stacy talked about self-work, I know oftentimes relationships end and we end up feeling like we failed. I mean, was that something that at all impacted you? Did you feel as if you were a failure?
Oh, I absolutely felt like a failure for at least the first 18 months after my marriage split up. It was the biggest struggle, actually. I felt like I failed at the example to show my daughter. I felt like I'd failed my family. I certainly felt that I'd failed my God. I felt like I'd broken covenant. That was a very, very big deal for me. And I felt like I failed myself. I had all of these dreams that were entangled in someone else's last name, in who I was going to be. And I remember my self-worth took a big hit. I no longer I took a long time to see myself as a woman again. I took a long time to see myself as beautiful. I took a long time to see myself as powerful. It was for at least 18 months. I remember one of my good guy friends looking towards me and saying, "What?" And I'm like, looking behind me. And he's like, yeah, and I was like, and he's like, "Daniel, you have to do some work on that, because I'm actually saying to you, yeah, man, you're
Things are
going.
going for you.
Yeah, you're going though." And I didn't even see it. It didn't even occur to me that he was talking to me. And there was some big work that needed to be done there. And I'm glad to say
I'm
it's been
getting
done.
the wrap-up signal from my producer, but I want to give you 10 quick seconds to say something to women who are looking at a divorce now. What can you say to help to encourage them as they face this transition in their life?
Remind yourself who you are.
Yeah, and
Simply
I think the priority is really focusing on who you're creating, like your new person, like the new who you are going to be, your new best self as an individual, so that you can then offer yourself, if you want to another relationship.
And do the work. You can't get around the work that you need to do to be able to recover from a divorce. It is terrible, but you can come through it, for sure.
All right, and it seems as if the both of you have done that, come through it, and you're looking gorgeous. Can I say that?
Thank
before-
you.
And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. the story.
Absolutely,
Thank you so
anytime. You
much.
can have me back again.
And that's it for this conversation, but stay with us. We have so much more coming up right after this break. And culturally, we have this nasty habit, I'm going to call it, of saying that the girl them bad. So you have a 14-year-old girl who is being abused by an adult male, 30 years old, 40 years old. But the man is not a pedophile, the little girl bad. And I'm saying, this is a child.
I'm bold and beautiful. This is a woman's world.
Sexual abuse and violence against women and girls. I am an obstetrician and gynecologist by profession. I recall a Thursday morning when I decided to make only 4 appointments before going on the road to conduct some personal business. I also decided that I would ask all 4 patients if they had a history of sexual abuse in childhood, or sexual assault or rape. All 4 did. A 5th turned up to see me but had no such history. After leaving my office, my first stop was a financial institution where one of my female friends works. I told her that my day was stressful, hearing about all the abuse that our women and girls suffer. My friend responded by telling me that she understands only too well, because she too was sexually molested as a child. The next day at my office, my first patient turned up with her cousin. It turned out that both were sexually abused in childhood. In a 24-hour period, 7 out of 8 women I spoke to were survivors of sexual assault or rape. Sexual violence against our females is much more common than many of us know or would like to believe. And most times, the perpetrators are known to the victims, especially in the case of children. Most cases, however, are not reported due to fear, shame, or guilt. And unfortunately, there is a lot of ignorance regarding sexual assault. Many do not understand the long-term effects, such as depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, sexual dysfunction, personality disorders, anger management issues, and even psychosis. Not only do some patients never recover, but many become repeatedly triggered by news and other stories that take them back to their traumatic experiences. Much of this is cyclical. When these women and children are traumatized, many become dysfunctional. Then when they have their children, the youngsters are exposed to the dysfunctional behavior, become traumatized, and the cycle continues. But we must break the cycle. We must plan for and treat our children with love. We must not only love and affirm them, but also protect them and not turn a blind eye to abuse, as way too many of us do. Do you know of or suspect any cases of child abuse? Report it. Call 1-888-PROTECT. That's 1-888-776-8328. Break the silence on child abuse.
What Dr. Abrams is talking about is something that it's not an easy topic to deal with. It's not something that we tend to enjoy talking about, but it's a reality. And I think if we don't address these issues, then it continues to happen, and we can't ignore it because it will always come close to home, right?
And we need to have these uncomfortable conversations, because I think that sexual abuse towards little girls has been normalized. And so you find that even the reaction sometimes is not that of outrage as you would expect it to be.
Yeah.
And the outrage is if you hear that a little boy was sexually abused versus a little girl. And so I think we need to continuously have that conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it needs to be had because so many women throughout the course of their lives have been abused.
And culturally, we have this nasty habit, I'm going to call it, of saying that the girl them bad. So you have a 14-year-old girl who is being abused by an adult male, 30 years old, 40 years old, but the man is not a pedophile, you know, the little girl bad. And I'm saying, this is a child. This is, I want baby that, 14 years old? Yeah, baby, you have no sense. So it really should be the adult in that to say, no, but you're a child. But they're not doing that.
Right.
And so you have these scenarios where they are literally preying on children, and you have whole communities who know that it is happening. I mean, I was listening to a conversation on radio, and they were talking about just the prevalence of situations where you have parents who sell their children. So they send their child, there's a man in the community or somebody in another parish, and you send the child to live with the man, and then the parents get money.
Yeah. It brings me back to, we have to get back as a country, as a people, to the point where, you know, they say it takes a woman to a village to raise a child. We all have to be involved because somebody always see.
People know.
Somebody, you know, and it's time to start speaking up about it. Like, we have to get involved. No more of this whole, oh, you know, see, you know, see, what is it?
See, I'm blind, here and there.
You have to talk out.
Yeah. And it's getting over that thing where we think a some man stay, because we excuse their behavior and we say a some man stay. So to Stacy's point, we force girls to cover up, you have to speak a certain, we have to do certain things, and nothing is wrong with that, mind you, but we still have to hold men accountable for violating these little girls. And that's really what is happening. And it even happens as adults. Men just see you and they objectify you, they see you as theirs for the taking, no matter the situation. And it's really time that we put an end to that. And men need to hold each other to account, because there are good men out there who see it happening and they remain silent about it.
And there are also good men too who are fighting the fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I know several men. I mean, when I remember conversations with my husband, for instance, and if you ever mention anything and it sound like, say, you're talking about a possibility that somebody could look at our 14-year-old, him get a little
Very dark.
very dark. So there are those men who are fiercely protective and who burn a fire when them see the foolishness. Because I hear him burn a fire when he hear say you have a man where look one little girl, him say idiot thing that. And I mean, you do have those men who are speaking out against it, and that is what we need. We need strong men, good men to speak up.
I think one of the things, and Dr. Abrams touched on it, one of the things that we don't often think about is the effects, the lasting effects that it has when this happens to you. Even if it was when you're a child, when you're a grown person, many people, because they've never dealt with it, they have not healed. And a lot of the behaviors that we see
Exactly.
is rooted in what happened to them as a
Yeah.
child. And then they pass that on, that way of thinking, living from their hurt is what is transferred to people
To
around
their
them, to the
adult
next
lives.
generation. Yeah.
And we really need to make safe spaces for people to talk about it. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of the problems that we have is because people are not having honest conversations. Your brother is violating a young girl, you need to say something.
Yeah.
And you need to not to make the child the villain in the situation, or the woman, whoever it is, you need to not make the victim the villain, and make safe spaces where people can open up and feel and don't feel judged and don't feel like it's their fault. Because a lot of times victims will tell you that they feel like it's their fault. So
Let me tell you something. It's since becoming a mother that I realized some were crazy. Like me, we're mad. You understand? Like, I like to think that I'm a rational human being, but I feel if you touch none of my picnic them, or if
No
you
man,
look
a
on
war.
them certain way, I'm
Trouble.
gonna go bananas.
yeah.
I tell you the truth.
Listen,
A lot of people become like that when they're parents, but it's also important to do it even when you don't have a child, or to protect people who are not your children as well.
Okay.
And just other women looking out for each other and making sure
There you
that,
go.
you know, I got your back.
But then, you know, for me, one of the big issues is the women who you have a child, a teenager, and she comes and says, well, you know, so and so did so and so, and then you tell the people, say a lie, don't know, so. Well, that's another conversation entirely.
Yeah.
another conversation is about the justice system. Like there have to be penalties
Yes.
that if you touch a picnic, if you touch another person inappropriately, if you violate even
Yeah.
their space, that you know that
Yeah. We really need to enforce the law.
Lauren and
So
Bobby.
we have them on the books.
No,
They need to be revised, but
Listen.
we don't enforce them.
Before you string me, all right. Let me fix it.
What's wrong with
Let me fix it. I am not suggesting that jungle justice is the way to go. I do not think that it is.
But you wouldn't.
However,
Then
with
she
a,
said,
with a
however-
good justice system, we don't need jungle justice, because that can be scary as well, and it can be unfair. Because sometimes if you find the wrong person, them do the wrong thing to the wrong person. So we need
Exactly.
to be able to depend on our current justice system, and we need to just
Yeah, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. But it starts with having the conversation. And we're not going to snip anybody's anything,
You know-
Kareen.
I just
Okay.
get upset about.
I mean,
Guess
we
what?
can't.
Listen, when you think about the hurt, when you think about the pain, guys, it's a real thing for me, you know. Like, I've been blessed. It's not something that I've ever had to experience. But when you see the pain that other women and children
Yeah.
are experiencing at the hands of others, and people sit back and we do nothing.
Yeah.
We don't say nothing because we're thinking about ourselves. And until all of us just start talking about it and just start defend people, right? We can't let fear rule the society now. If we see somebody doing something, everybody start holler, kick down, do whatever we need to do to stop it for that person, because it could be you, it could be your mother, your sister, and if you allow it to continue, it will touch you. We have to do something now.
And one of the things that we need to do is education. So in our schools, we need to start saying to our young people, if something is happening, speak to your guidance counselor,
Right.
tell somebody, tell your teacher, tell auntie at church, tell, I don't know, somebody, a neighbor,
And we need
a
to train
relative.
people how to respond if
Yes.
somebody comes to you with that. So it has to be a space, as I said before, a safe space, because sometimes the response makes people not want to talk about it. And then we have this culture of keeping up appearances. It annoys me. We want to keep up appearances. We don't want to talk about these things.
Right.
We don't want to look bad. And we don't want to bring shame on the family and all these things. So those are some of the things that we really need to address when we're dealing with sexual abuse.
We also need to raise our boys. We need to be intentional. You know, I always go back to there. We need to be intentional in how we are raising our boys. We need to teach our boys how to treat women, how to interact with women, how to accept no from a woman,
Exactly.
and just how to deal with rejection generally. And I think that maybe not for our current generation, but at least for the next, we give them a fighting chance,
have to.
because it's a tough world out there.
And something we saw coming out in the US, in North America, where you had this Me Too movement, and many women who were asked, I mean, why didn't you say something before? And, you know, if something is happening, find a way to have some kind of evidence.
Right.
You know what I found interesting about the Me Too movement? A lot of men got very vocal about how it could ruin their lives because everybody's claiming everything is sexual abuse and all of that. And I'm almost certain if you get a room together with 200 women and 200 men, and you ask in that room how many men have had their lives ruined by a false accusation of rape or harassment, chances are you probably have one hand going up, if any. But if you ask 200 women in a room how many times they've been sexually harassed or sexually abused, I guarantee you it would probably be half the room.
Well, at least
Or
out
more.
here, they said it's one in 4 women in
Well,
Jamaica.
in my circle of influence and my circles, everywhere you go to the salon, the hairdresser, work, school, wherever, there is always at least one woman who's been impacted in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, all right. As all we
let
can
it
keep
go.
doing is
the
what
work.
Dr. Abrams said. 1-888 protect. Report it. Report it. Report it. Do not keep silent. Well, that's all we have on this segment. But stay with us. We're going to lighten things up a little bit right after this.
I'm bold and beautiful. This is a woman's world. Get up, I am woman. I ain't got no time to waste.
Seriously.
Walking with my head down.
Welcome back to It's a Woman's World. I promise things do get lighter and fun in a little while. But as long as women anywhere in the world are being hurt, abused, abandoned, or held back, we have to shine a light. And this one, I mean, I just really can't understand. Like, seriously though, why is child marriage still a thing in countries all over the world?
so for instance, in Sudan, a boy can get married at 15, but the girl, the youngest she can get married is 10.
Like,
Why?
old.
no, I remember when I was 10 years old. So I did common entrance at 10 years old. No, I don't understand. I mean, why would you want to marry a 10-year-old?
At 10 years old, I was still playing football outside with the boys with my shirt over my head. I play upon the skin side because I didn't even have breasts. So the things that make you a woman, womanly, are not evident at 10 years old for most.
Definitely
For
not
most
for
of
me.
them,
At 10
so-
years old, I was probably like 45 pounds. You could gather water in my collarbones. Like, I don't understand what men think about when they decide to do these things. I just don't. I can't wrap my head around
to be
why you
fair,
would do
though,
that to a
if
child.
you think about the Sudan, if boys are also forced into marriage at 15,
Yes.
yeah, baby same way, you know. So it's not just girls;
Right.
it is children in general.
But
You thought this was a good idea.
I don't know.
But there are countries like Somalia that don't even specify a minimum age, so it could just.
no.
Sorry, and the thing is that when you get married, naturally there's the expectation, which we spoke about in another show, that it's time to procreate, which is one of the reasons.
parent.
Exactly. So here are these young girls and boys, still babies, who are now having children of their own. They can't even, like a girl can't even give birth properly.
And I mean, how as a grown man, you're a little girl forced in a marriage with this man, which shouldn't even be classified as a marriage. How do you can't even have conversations about protecting yourself. You can't have conversations about, your mind isn't nowhere there. You're like nowhere there. So what kind of conversations do you have with a 10-year-old that would stimulate you enough to want this person to be your wife?
Well, I guess
clearly
I guess
it's not
your
about
whole,
that.
your whole definition of what a marriage is supposed to be,
Right.
it totally is different from, I guess, what
Yeah.
we consider it to be. And just in case you are about to think that this is only happening in the eastern part of the world, in the UK, the minimum legal age for marriage is 16. Like, this is supposed to be the first world. This is the 21st century.
But I guess that these are some of the reasons why we're seeing such a high divorce rate as well, because people have a different understanding of what marriage is, and they're not going into marriage prepared for the different things that happen in a marriage. And so if it's not working, then you just cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the divorce should be the last resort, but I also think that some of the reasons divorces are happening even more frequently is, one, we have more access to information, and two, we weren't really being honest about what a marriage entails. So a lot of people envision the wedding
Right.
and they don't really understand the marriage to know that, okay, it's not going to be all flowers every day and it's not always
Cotton
going to be
candy
about
and roses,
romance.
right.
There's real work to be done after the wedding day.
Because it takes a certain level of maturity to
Yeah.
deal with the things that happen in marriage. And a child, certainly a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, or I don't know, personally, anybody under 18 or 25 maybe.
Because look here, let us all just be very, very fair. When you was 18, you don't have no sense. So even though the law says you could be married, me certainly never did have no sense when me 18. I tell you the truth.
When you compare who you are now
Yeah, what you
to
know now.
18, you know, you really didn't have a grasp on anything,
Were
really.
not
You're
ready
young, you
to
just,
be married.
yeah, you weren't.
Well, and then you decide to get married, which brings us to our next point in this segment. Like seriously, because there are certain countries where the man can decide pretty much anything to do with his wife. So for instance, if you want to get a job, your husband tell you, no, you can't get it, then you can't get it.
Yeah, and that's true in 18 countries, according to a 2016 World Bank report. In 18 countries around the world, married women cannot get a job without their husband's permission.
Go ahead, Ty. Start
I have
talking
nothing
about,
to
go
say.
ahead.
I have nothing to say. You want the man bed down and him knee ask us to be wife? I have nothing to say on the matter.
Yeah, but that doesn't say that you now need permission. It doesn't take away your rights as a human being and as a person.
Ask him to marry you.
No, me not do that.
No, but also,
I'm
I'm not-
teasing.
I'm
I'm
not
teasing.
here for it.
It's wrong. It's wrong. And we can't continue like this. We can't continue allowing these things to happen. And that's the thing I love about learning things and reading and understanding what's happening in the world. Because a lot of things we sit in our little corner, and there are so many things that are happening across the world to disenfranchise women, to violate them, that we're not aware of. So I'm happy that we're getting this information. We're bringing awareness to the issues. So it's now time to do the work to fix it.
And I
Because
think
we can't continue
the
like
point
this.
needs to be made that although these structures and institutions around the world put women at a disadvantage, it's not just women, it's families as well. I mean, nearly every report you would read from the UNDP, the World Bank, speaks to the impact that these kinds of systems have, not just on women, but the family.
Right.
Because we know that if you subjectify half of the globe's population, then there is going to be a negative impact. And we see it in countries where things like your GDP is lower, standard of living is lower. So, I mean, there is every good reason to empower, to protect, and to just ensure the rights of women and girls.
Yeah.
so this has been another episode of Why I'm Glad I Live in Jamaica.
Girl,
Because we have to give thanks that we don't have to deal. And I understand that culturally things are different, but with what I've seen and how I view life now, I mean, we have a lot to be grateful for.
we do. We definitely do. And that's it.
Yeah,
for
I mean, I have nothing else
like
about the child
seriously.
marriage.
Yeah,
Because it really is like seriously.
and I'm
We're
very,
working.
very, very excited. We're going into some things that we all love to talk about. Sleigh Bells is coming up on the other side of this break, and we have a special treat because, no, I'm not going to give it away. Stay with us. Back in a minute.
All these things. What is wrong with them? Why you want to marry that baby?
Yeah, why you want to marry one 10-year-old though? Talk it truth though.
Like,
big
I don't
man.
even know how you feel good about yourself.
No, me don't understand. Why you want to marry one 10-year-old? Like,
Should do even bust
girls
breasts.
can.
I'm bold and beautiful. This is a woman's world. Get up, keep walking with my head down. No, oh, oh.
Hello, my fabulous sleigh bells. You know it's always a good time when we come back from the break and we're about to slay. So we've been talking about fashion, we talk about makeup, we talk about skincare. But today we're gonna change it up a little. We're gonna talk about fashion for your home. How do you transform your spaces to look as fabulous as you do every day? And to do this, we have invited the incomparable Angeli
right.
Spencer. Now I'm going to check my cue card for her title because it's a long one. Angeli Spencer is the Ashley Style Ambassador, an interior decorator, and a principal of Ash Angeli Spencer Home.
That's right.
Nice.
So thank you so much for joining us on set today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You
Such a
look
privilege.
fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
And you know, she looks fabulous like that all the time.
All
Because
day.
every time I see her, I mean, she's just
Yes,
slaying
I
all
wake up
day.
like this.
I was about to say that.
I
You took
wish.
it
Yeah,
from me.
no,
Like,
no, I
this,
wish.
this is what Beyonce sings about, okay? This is it in its glory. So, Angeli, we want to know, how do we make our homes as fabulous as you are?
And it's not even how do we must make our homes as fabulous as us. I mean, your home is a reflection. People don't realize that you actually escape to this space. It is your comfort zone. It is your escape. So after a long day, hectic or not, it's where you dwell.
Yeah.
So it has to be comfortable and inviting and warm, and it has to represent you as well.
Right.
So for me, you have to make it you, and you have to have personal touches in it. It has to be comfortable. You have to know what your space is functioning. Who is it serving?
Right.
What are the functions of it? Is it serving just families? Is it serving family and friends? I mean, do you have guests a lot? All these things you have to consider when you're going to decorate your home.
Yeah.
And it starts with your taste. And it could be a color taste, a preference to texture, or whatever. It really should be a reflection of you.
Oh, fabulous. But how often do you recommend that we switch it up?
Well, some of us switch it up very often. But
Hint,
others of us,
hint, hint.
and it's interesting, switching it up it doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be a lot. But just remember that your home is one of the biggest investments you'll make, and that's the house itself. And then large pieces such as your sofas and bed and dining table and pieces, those are large investment pieces. So those you have to invest wisely from the start, because they're going to last you for a very long time. I mean, some pieces you can even hand down to your children and your children to their children.
Right.
But with proper maintenance and care and a little refreshing and stuff, those things will last. But the small things, those you can change quite often. So change out your pillows seasonally. I mean, we don't have seasons in Jamaica.
Right.
So we don't have like fall colors and spring colors, but you can still
Do a
incorporate
hurricane, non-hurricane.
or no, the best time for us exactly is Christmas time. That's the time of year that we all do the big fix up. So you bring in the rich, vibrant reds and the golds and those things you can bring. So you can have a little suitcase of your seasonal decor items. And the easy way to do it is you still reuse the same cushions, but you just zip them off and put on new covers. And those things aren't bulky, so they're easy to store, to put away.
So what about a space like this one, our set? I
Right.
mean, what can we do? Can we do the same kind of switching out of accessories
Precisely,
to
and
give
the
you a new
highest
look?
impact to the highest is in color. I think it's with color. That's the way you really and truly switch it up. So you can even slip cover the whole sofa, which we're not going to do today, but things like that. I even take it a step further. So I actually do seasonal looks in my home. So I have reversible slip covers for my headboard. So I have a sunny yellow for spring, summertime, and then on the back side of it is a nice navy blue for like the dark, cooler, the warmer.
Headboard.
Yes. So I have an upholstered headboard that's like a nice gray, and then I made a slip cover. So when I put on the yellow and white bedding, the headboard have to match.
I get the
And
feeling.
you slip it on.
I feel like
But I don't
it's gonna
want
be
to-
a makeover.
Yes, and you don't want to actually, no, you don't want to actually have two slip covers, so I make it reversible. So I just flip it around, and then it can be any color on the opposite side, and then that matches your bedding and the cushions. So here, what people think, it used to be a decade ago, it was warm tones, it was the Mediterranean look. Now it's the contemporary, they're calling it modern Caribbean. So if you notice, construction is a lot of very modern lines, gray, blue, black and white. That's what you're seeing. You're not seeing the rusts and the yellows and the beige anymore. So the
All right,
interior
so
is
you're
the
gonna
same. So
show us some of what we can
right.
do.
So right now we have the blue. So I'm
Okay.
going to show which is the cooler tones, and people think that gray only couples with cool tones, but gray actually goes with every color, warm tones. I mean, picture gray and orange or gray and yellow, gray and gold.
True.
So what I love about this is we're going to show you that Ottoman, for example, is an example of a great alternative to a coffee table.
like a coffee table, wow.
Precisely, because a coffee table is hard, so it's not good when you have children. So an Ottoman is great because it offers the comfort. You can put your feet up. You don't want to put your feet up on the wood furniture. You can, some of them have storage, and it's safer for kids. So we're going to replace that with nice gold tones with like this piece, for example.
Do you need us to help you with anything?
Certainly. So you can put
Right.
bright flowers.
Try our hand at this.
Yes.
All right.
Right. And we're going to switch that out. And when you're decorating, try to decorate in odd numbers. That's a nice tip that you should learn. Yes, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9.
Okay.
It's hardly a pair. And even when you have a pair of lamps, a pair of anything, you put a third thing. It's just balance. It just creates a better balance.
So do
when you
the
do
two
that.
things have to match?
No, and I'm going to show you when I step around to the back here, for example.
Okay, what we
If you
got
notice, we have threes here, and they're 3 different heights. So usually when you see a set of accessories that come in a set, it's always different heights because the eyes are supposed to just move around. So they don't have to be too, matchy-matchy.
Right.
So we can switcheroo here. We're going to do a switcheroo. So we're switching out these nice blue vases.
So Angeli, how important it is to maintain a color scheme? I mean, suppose you just want to go wild and you want to come up with something that's different from what you're working with on
Right,
that
you
palette.
actually want to have something a little bit different. This is where you bring in things from your travels, special gifts, something you see that you really love. So those very bold things, you can bring them in the accessories though, because you don't want to make too much of a big investment in a wild piece, because you may tire of it. The people who live in the space with you may not love it so much, but it's that little thing that sparks conversation, that makes you a little happy, brings you a little joy. So the accessories is how you do that.
And that's what Ty is doing
Right,
here.
so
She's-
we're changing out for the person who prefers gold and the
Right.
warmer tones. So it's almost the exact same pillows, but we're in
Okay.
with a different color, right?
Okay.
And then if you just take those pieces off, if you
Okay.
not really into the coastal theme,
No,
as
I'm
it's
over it.
right, and you want to go with warmer tones,
This out.
All right.
and you're going to
Nice.
pick up
I
the
like
tones
those.
here,
Those
right?
are beautiful.
Exactly. So a little bit more formal.
And you
This is
see
a
the
more
flecks of the
formal
gold
setting,
picking up with the
precisely
cushion.
picking up. And we actually have a cushion for you. So you can also
Oh.
incorporate the dark grays from your cushion. And then we have the coppers and the gold tones as
Yeah,
well.
and
So
this
you
one is a
trade
little
it. So
funkier than-
exactly.
Yes,
so
I
you
like
asked
it.
about the interesting fabric you have.
Yeah, so you get that.
And then next to you, now you can actually put this, you bring a little more pattern in.
Right.
And here you go, Karina, you can actually replace the pieces that you took here from the accessories.
So do I put this
Yes,
in?
straight
okay.
in.
Is Ty doing it correctly over there?
Ty is doing wonderfully over there.
I'm a sleigh bell. I mean, I got this. I don't understand.
And remember I said you'd always try to do odd numbers, 3, 1,
Wow,
and then different
these
heights
are nice.
as well.
These are
Exactly.
very nice.
So yeah, that's
Ooh.
essentially you just quickly change it out.
Let me see.
And
Let me
we
see.
actually have flowers, yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
And we actually have flowers. Flowers are always great to bring into a space.
Okay.
So it actually represents life. So
This is nice.
yes, and we just bring the flowers in. You can bring it in this, something like this, or you do it alone. You can
then you
switch
just
this
say-
one out under there.
Okay.
Yep, and we're pretty good.
Does your ottoman, because we talked about the ottoman,
Yes.
does the ottoman have to match the rest of the furniture?
It doesn't. So ottomans, those accent pieces, the accent chair, the single arm chairs, those are great for where you add the bold prints. So if you want to do a pattern or a different color, a bold color, that's typically where you would do it. In the ottoman, in the accent chair. And there's a reason it's called an accent chair.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to accent the decor, accentuate the decor.
So what are some of the basic things? I mean, for a novice like myself, what should I know before I attempt any kind of transformation?
Start with the neutrals, and that's what I love about Ashley Furniture Home Store, for example. Like you can walk into Ashley, it's for the layman, it's for the decorators, it's for the design, it's for everyone. But you actually walk in and you have spaces. They actually have 4 lifestyles. So you can choose which lifestyle you like by just walking into the space. There is vintage casual, it's a softer, more feminine lifestyle. Then there's urbanology, which is a harsher, like a more edgy
Yeah.
lifestyle. It has a little masculine touch.
street, yeah.
Right. They have contemporary and then they have new tradition. So it's a traditional, but it's not as stuffy and formal as the old
Okay, kinda.
traditional furniture pieces are, right.
Nice.
And then contemporary, same thing, sleek lines, more muted tones, that kind of thing. So you walk in and you can actually, if you can afford it at the time, you can actually walk out with your house fully decorated.
the entire space.
Right.
Lovely.
Or
Wow.
you have the option, it's not like back in the day where you had them sell a 3-piece set and you have to buy the 3-piece set.
3 pieces.
You can take a piece from here,
Yeah,
a piece
get what
from
you
there.
And you're walking past the furniture, oh, gone are those days. You can buy a piece that you
Yeah.
like. So I need a sofa, but if my space can't fit a sofa,
sofa, then you have the option of a love seat.
Right.
Right.
And you can actually break the set and buy just the sofa or buy just the love seat.
Yeah.
And then you can mix the lifestyles as well. So I can
Okay.
buy from this set, I can buy the sofa, but I can get the accent chair from another collection. That
And
kind of thing.
we are so out of time, but it's been a fascinating conversation. I feel like I can now go to Ashley and get my things sorted out.
And they will sort you out as well. So they even have plans as well. You can actually don't have, you have payment plans that you can utilize.
Okay.
Exactly. And they have in-house designers. The staff is very trained and equipped to help you
Okay,
to make your decisions.
fabulous.
All
So
right.
you can have.
And that's it for Slay Bells
Yeah.
today.
We're slaying wardrobes and we're slaying houses.
That's right.
Got this.
We will be back right after this break.
I'm bold and beautiful. This is a woman's world.
All right, me hear the problem. As much as I want to look curvaceous, when my hand in my pocket, me not free for talk. My words don't flow. So make my bottom look big. Work with me here.
Back with you for the final time on It's a Woman's World for today. It's been a great show, isn't that right, ladies?
It was really, really good. I'm really grateful to our guests, Danielle and Stacy, for sharing their story and really helping us recognize how we can push through even a tragic situation.
Yeah. To start the conversation and help people understand what's really going on after the wedding day. So the things that we got to get done. And then
We ended on such an amazing
And
note.
then-
I mean, look. It's
new
really,
house,
really
who
nice.
this? Things are gone.
No, this was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it really was. And give us your feedback. Tell us what you thought of the show. Follow us on Instagram and check out our Facebook page at It's a Woman's World JA. That's it for us here. Have a great one. See you next time.
Bye.
Yeah.
See you on the flip side.
Yeah.
We're going to our yard, in our bed, with sheet clean.
I'm done.
I don't know why the constant attack and why the sense that we're lonely. I think we should dedicate a show, a segment of the show, where we talk about lonely married women. Women who have their husbands in their homes and they're still very lonely because
Oh, oh, oh. I am woman, it's a woman's world. And I live my life on purpose. Oh, 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 oh. Woman to woman, this is what we're about to do now. Shaping the future. This is our world. Sophisticated, confident, I'm courageous. I'm bold and beautiful.